Coming to number 3, Mr Frisk and Midnight Madness together. Mr Frisk on the far side, Midnight Madness nearest to us, Bright Dream, Broadheath, Tarconi and Donamine. The first of the ditches now. Mr Frisk, Midnight Madness, Bright Dream, Broadheath, Tarconi and Donamine. Coming down to the next, the 5th. Midnight Madness from Mr Frisk, Bright Dream, Broadheath, Tarconi and Donamine. Midnight Madness over the 6th from Mr Frisk, Bright Dream and Broadheath, Tarconi and Donamine. This will be the last on the next circuit. Midnight Madness from Mr Frisk is in quite a lather. Bright Dream is 3rd and Broadheath 4, 5 Tarconi and 6 Donamine. So coming up to the winning post on the first circuit, it's Midnight Madness from Mr Frisk and Bright Dream, then Broadheath, Tarconi, and finally Donamine just coming into the picture. Still Midnight Madness from Mr Frisk, Bright Dream going just a little bit wide there, then Broadheath, Tarconi and Donamine. Midnight Madness still from Mr Frisk, Bright Dream and Broadheath close in 4th, then Tarconi and Donamine the back marker. Coming to number 8 of the 18 in all, Midnight Madness from Mr Frisk and Broadheath going well on the inside of Bright Dream, then Tarconi, and finally Donamine, who only just jumped it. Second of the ditches, Midnight Madness from Mr Frisk and Broadheath, then Bright Dream, Tarconi, and finally Donamine. Running to the 10th, Midnight Madness from Mr Frisk and Broadheath, then Tarconi and then Bright Dream, who's lost ground into 5th place. Over the water now, Midnight Madness clear of Mr Frisk, who doesn't jump it very well. Broadheath right upsides him, then Tarconi and then Bright Dream. Over the 12th, Midnight Madness is well clear at the moment of Broadheath and Mr Frisk together, and then Tarconi and then Bright Dream. 6 from home, Midnight Madness from Broadheath and Mr Frisk, then Tarconi, Bright Dream. A long run now to the next. Midnight Madness in the lead with Broadheath attempting this 4-timer, closing all the time, then Mr Frisk, and then Tarconi, who's not far behind him at all, in fact coming up to join Mr Frisk now. Midnight Madness from Broadheath, Tarconi and Mr Frisk, and these 4 now a long way clear of Bright Dream and Donamine. 5 left to jump. Midnight Madness from Broadheath, Tarconi and Mr Frisk. Midnight Madness still with a commanding advantage as they come down to the next from Broadheath, then Tarconi and Mr Frisk. Midnight Madness lands in the lead from Broadheath and Tarconi, then Mr Frisk coming down to the final open ditch now in this Mercedes-Benz chase. This is 4 from home. Midnight Madness lands in the lead from Tarconi, and then Broadheath, and then Mr Frisk trying to get closer again, coming down to the next. Still Midnight Madness from Tarconi, Broadheath and Mr Frisk. Midnight Madness lands clear of Tarconi, Mr Frisk and Broadheath. Broadheath's not going to win it again this year. Coming down to the second last, Midnight Madness is clear of Tarconi and Mr Frisk. Midnight Madness, Tarconi second, a faller. Tarconi's gone to the second last. Horse is up all right, his rider's yet to rise. Midnight Madness coming down to the last now. He's only got to jump it. Midnight Madness, oh, he doesn't jump it well, but he gets away with it. Mr Frisk jumps it second and Broadheath third. And as they race up towards the line, Midnight Madness wins the Mercedes-Benz chase from Mr Frisk in second, third Broadheath, and 4th Bright Dream, and